Hello, my name is Faina, and I have dedicated the last 7 years to honing my craft and fine tuning my strategy.
Welcome to Trading in the ZEN, where we help traders find their groove. I'm your co-host, Louise Nonwheeler, a trading psychologist and multi-award winning clinical hypnotherapist. Join us weekly as we delve into the trading world, exploring psychology, well-being, health, and mindset. Through expert insight, interviews, and actionable strategies, we help you as traders unlock the mindset needed to navigate markets with confidence and achieve peak performance.
At Trading in the Zen, we believe that there's much more to trading than numbers and probabilities. Like an athlete, a trader should operate in their peak state. Each week, you will have mind-blowing interviews as well as actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better trader. Thanks for spending time with us today. Now, let's dive right in. In this episode, we interview Jessilyn Persson. Jessilyn, with her husband Brian, are on a mission to help couples align their wealth goals and create powerful strategies for building financial empires through real estate. Having successfully navigated the intricacies of a financial planning in marriage, Jessilyn and Brian possess a deep understanding of how to build wealth while maintaining strong, committed relationships. Welcome to Trading in the Zen. Today we have someone special all the way from Canada. We welcome Jessilyn to the show. Hi, Jessilyn. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, ladies.
Hi, Jessilyn. It's lovely to have you today.
I'm
So,
happy to.
Jessilyn, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you coming from? What is your area of expertise? What makes you happy?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm actually in Canada, and my area of expertise is alongside my husband, we help coach individuals and couples in across a money mindset and then building a wealth strategy so they can live a life they love. And that was born out of me working too many hours as a contractor. And I ended up with extreme burnout where I was housebound for 2 months trying to recover my health while still having two little guys. I still have two little guys. But just going through that transition, I realized I chased the money for so long. And when I got it, I was kind of like, well, that didn't give me any purpose. And so I had to dig in and realize, okay, why am I here? And what do I want to leave as a legacy? And not just for my kiddos, but like in the world. And that's where it's like, okay, let's help people become wealthy so they can really live a life they love, whether that's like time or location freedom, whether that's out of a job they don't like, a boss they don't like, a relationship they're not happy with. But I believe that money is a tool that can give you, they say it doesn't buy you happiness, but it can sure help you get the support you need to get that happiness of whatever it is you're looking for.
Yeah.
Through all of your years of coaching, what would you say is the biggest roadblock that people have in their mind regarding the possibility of becoming wealthy and comfortable and living the life that they desire?
Oh, I would say a lot of that has to do with the abundance versus the scarcity mindset. I mean, myself included, I grew up not having much and thinking there wasn't much. And it took a lot of time digging into my past to see, okay, where did I inherit this from? What does that look like? Is it real? And I got it from my mom. And is it real from where she was, which made sense when she grew up as a boomer to me, where I'm like, I'm comfortable. I don't need to have that mentality. But it was just kind of what I knew. And to get past that and understand that when you do get past that scarcity mindset, there's abundance everywhere you look. And it's not about if I make more, you make less. There's enough to go around. And when people can understand that it's not a selfish thing, it's very much a stability, a legacy, and then to give back. I find I'm part of many women groups and we all want to give back. And one thing I really showcase is like, ladies, okay, if you can donate 20 bucks here, 100 bucks here, okay, that's nice. But what if you could sign a check for $1,000 or $10,000? Now you're really giving back. I said, but you can't do that if you don't have yourself set up financially and you're not wealthy. And that just shines a different light for them to be like, you want to give back, then really give back. But to do that, you need to be wealthy first.
I think what you're doing is so inspiring. Like, you're helping others, and it sounds like that through that difficult period, your own period, something was born, something was created, and I think that's heartwarming. I mean, what happened during that kind of shift, if you can share more? Like, did you kind of, obviously it was a difficult time, and you had burnout, but what happened? Because there was obviously sort of like almost an awakening or a transition during that period.
Yes. So I'd say probably a couple. One with the burnout, it was a realization that even though my husband had been telling me for years that I have to slow down and smell the flowers, I just was always wanting to make more, 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 make more. And then finally I had money. Like there was no question we were doing very well. And I still was living in that mindset. Well, I got to make more, I got to make more. And it cost me my health and time I missed with my kids. And I went, okay, well, why? What does this all mean? And so then I really dug in and said, okay, well, an exercise I do with some people who really want to dig in is like, oh, I know it sounds kind of weird, but imagine you're standing at the back of the room during your celebration of life or funeral, and you're listening to what people are saying. What are they saying about you? And I did that exercise in one of the courses I took, and I went, oh, I'm not ready to leave. I said, I want people to say that I've made an impact. I've helped change their lives. I said, okay, this is the path I need to go down. It's got nothing to do with the money anymore because I got that. Now, how do I leave a legacy that isn't necessarily financial legacy, but a legacy where people are saying, yeah, because of Jessilyn, I lived this great life. And then the other transformation I say I'd have is when I had to really dig in and acknowledge my money mindset and where it came from, and accepting that. Like accepting that it's okay that I was raised that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's okay to want more and have more. And then I had to get over some of that guilt. It's like, well, I've got more than my parents, and my parents don't have these luxuries, and my parents don't. But it's like, and it's a real shift to be like, why should I have more? And it's, well, I chose to, I worked hard for it, and now I'm set up to help them. But that took me some effort to get over accepting that, well, I can have it even if my parents or my siblings don't.
Yeah,
Mm.
amazing,
And I was
amazing.
just thinking, like, coming from not having much, right? How do you, because that fear kind of lives in your body, right? Because it's just neural pathways that were created and then reaffirmed, and you know, they say practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. And so if you continuously going down that path and your neural pathways are that way, how does one learn to dream big beyond what they know is possible, right? Like, how do you ignore the obvious and then reach so far beyond that into the unknown that you've never felt or experienced?
So firstly, I think it starts with education, because if you don't know, you don't know. So how can you dream bigger if you don't know it exists? And I wouldn't so much say ignore it, but accept it. Accept where you were, because you can't change that. Accept where you are and understand. Just forgive it. Especially if you're not happy with it, forgive it. Forgive your parents, forgive whatever it is. They did the best they could. And just now say, okay, I know this now. This is where I am. What's the next step I can take to go where I want to go, to grow my wealth? And we always recommend steps, because if you got this massive dream, it's overwhelming, especially if you don't have the tools or the education on how to get there. But you can have that dream, but then break it down into steps you can do every day or every week. So you're actually moving it forward without it like crippling you and making you go just give up because you just feel you can't achieve it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I think one of the things I do talk about a lot, and Fine is probably going, here we go again, is what we're talking a lot about now, beliefs. You know, the stories that we pick up from childhood. You know,
Mhm.
do you feel that it's easy because a belief can be very much easily created? Do you feel that even after decades of having like a belief or certain set of beliefs, that it's easy to eliminate them or to let them go?
Eliminate? No, I don't think they ever go away. I think they're always back here. Even to this day, if I'll go buy a big purchase, I'll get that, whoa, why am I spending this much? Or can I afford this? And then instantly like, no, you know you can afford it. You planned it. I didn't just go drop a bomb of money, right? But I still get that little bit of a tightening in my chest to be like, Jess, why are you spending this? And then at least I'm now like educated myself to be like, okay, this is why you chose to spend it. You've done the math, you know what it's going to look like, you've budgeted for it, you know it's in the budget. And honestly, sometimes I default a little bit. It happens, and I'm thankful I have my husband. He grew up middle class, so he has a little bit of a different understanding when it comes to money. And so when I'll do like just a heads up, I'm going to spend this, and he's like, yeah, but we've already planned for it. This is where it is in the account level. And I'm like, you make it sound like it's easy, whereas I'm just like, right? So I appreciate the different mentalities and educations we've had in that, and he helps me overcome some of my fear that sometimes creeps in.
Okay, great. It
Yeah.
sounds like you've got that self-awareness. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And speaking of fear, is there techniques that someone can do when that fear creeps up, right? Because it takes over your body sometimes, and you know, one part of the brain takes over the other, and there you go, and spinning in circles. Is there anything that you recommend to your clients, whether it be meditation or any other kind of modality to calm an overactive brain and self-soothe, aside from alcohol and all that other stuff?
So I do believe in journaling and meditation, and I love that. But I think in the moment, if you can just stop yourself and acknowledge you have that fear first, and then ask yourself a couple questions, like one, is it real? Like, is that fear based on where you are today? Is that an actual real fear? And if it's not, acknowledge it, thank it for showing up because it was there trying to protect you, and be like, I got this. Just put it aside and move forward. Right? But if it is a fear and for some reason it's real, then I would encourage you to look into that. Like, why is it still a fear? And how can you shift it so it's not creeping up every time you come into whatever the situation was that triggered it in the first place?
Great advice. Yeah. The majority of our listeners are financial traders, and we know that your husband is a trader. So one of the most common things that they really struggle with is losses, losing money. So what would your advice be to a trader out there who is struggling with like losses and accepting losses? Would you use kind of the same sort of concept where to challenge that and just accept it and let it go, or something different, do you feel?
So when I watched my husband, because when he first was learning it a few years ago now, I found he went through some of those highs and lows, and I, of course, didn't quite understand it because I was not a trader myself. But then when he talked through it with me, and the way he did it, I really appreciate. And so his goal is, of course, to make money. That's every trader's goal. But what he did is he capped it and he put like, what's the right word here? Like a target. So say he invested in whatever it was, put X amount in, and he's like, okay, I want to make 10% if that's his goal. And if he hit the 10%, he would sell it and then he would move on to whatever the next trade is. And say the next day it went up to 15 or 20%, he would beat himself up so bad. He said, he goes, I made $3,000, but I could have made five. And I'm like, but what's your goal? It's like, my goal is to make money at a 10% rate based on this time commitment I have for it, based on this piece of our portfolio. I'm like, okay, then just always bring yourself to that goal because you hit that goal. That's what you celebrate. It doesn't matter that the next day you could have made more, but because you don't know, you could have lost more too. So if you set yourself up with a specific plan on how you want to trade, and you just go back and look at that every time you have, an unexpected fear or a low hit you because maybe there was a loss, be like, okay, did it hit my goal? And was it my overall? Because my husband doesn't look at it just one either, right? Like it's the multiple trades. And then across the year, it's like, okay, well, I still averaged 13%. My goal is 10, perfect, right? It's a way to accept maybe some of the losses because you're always going to have some, right? We don't win at all of it. So I'd say that. And then the other thing that we really coach our clients on is acceptance of everything is and everything isn't. And we say that about anything in life, including trading, investing in real estate, your lifelong partner, your business partner. It's like when you choose to do whatever it is you're going to do, have you accepted for everything it is? Because we usually don't. We love all these wonderful things about our partner, but when they leave the toothpaste cap off or they don't flush the toilet, people will get mad. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Accept him or accept the choices you made for the dark side too. Because when they happen, they're easy to get through.
Yeah.
Do you feel that as humans, when we misstep, and the same with trading, right? And you made me think while you were talking about, but did you make the 10%, right? When we misstep, we are merciless on ourselves, like merciless. But when we actually achieve, maybe it's like not the full goal, but like the step in the right direction, we don't celebrate it enough. And so what we do is there's a lot of negative feedback loop and not enough of positive reinforcement. How do you feel? What should one do? Or do you think it's necessary for someone to say, oh, well, today, and it's not necessarily monetarily, as a trader, today, maybe the money was not the best, but I behaved properly and I followed my steps and my plan for the day, to celebrate that. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, I agree. We don't celebrate enough in life. And we always look for the big win for the celebration when that big win would never have happened without these small wins and these little hiccups on the road. So yeah, you're right. Celebrate the win if you actually had, money that you made, even if it was 5% instead of your 10, if that's what it was. But also, absolutely, if you took a bit of a loss, but you caught yourself and be like, okay, you know what? I lost a little bit today. That was all part of the plan because this is learning, this is growing, this is part of this business. Yay me. Like celebrate yourself that you didn't get all mad and upset and let it ruin your day. Because sometimes we carry this through for hours, if not weeks. and it goes into our environment, whether it's our family, our kids, different jobs. But if you can cap that right away and catch yourself to be like, yeah, this isn't the way I wanted it to go, but it is. I accept it. I'm going to move forward. Like that's a win in of itself. If you can because that also keeps stress and anxiety out of your body, which triggers illnesses and other things. But if you can help stop that keeps you going further and farther longer when you've accepted and just acknowledged that I'm doing great. I didn't stress out because we lost. Tomorrow we're going to have a win, right? And just keep that positive mentality. I think your whole dynamic changes in, again, whether it's trading or something else.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Can we dive in and sort of talk more about how you coach your clients? Because I know you work with couples, don't you? You coach couples. What are some of the misconceptions that couples have about building wealth, and how do you sort of help them to overcome this?
That's a great question. And that's mostly why we designed this program is, I said the biggest one is they're not on the same page, not even a little. And we learned that too, the hard way. But it first came to us when we were in real estate rooms. We'd have people come up to us and ask us like, oh, how do you guys do it? You're married, you have kids, you both have jobs, you're running a business, you're running real estate. Like, how do you do it together? My wife won't even listen to me. She doesn't care about my real estate, or I can't get my husband to invest. And from there, over a few years, we just kept hearing these stories. And then we took that, and then I took our lesson, which I share is, so in 2009, we bought our first property together, and we both believed in real estate. So you would think we were aligned. We were in agreement. We're building this path. We're building our legacy. And then 2016, my husband came home from his day job, and he says he's done. He's maxed out. He can't handle any more properties. And I'm like, yes, he can. But I didn't really articulate that. And so I signed him up for real estate investment networking group at the time. And he was really upset. I share this because people are like, your husband just did it. I'm like, oh, no. Let me tell you, he was mad. But he went because I'd already prepaid. And that night changed our whole trajectory. He was introduced to a room of real estate investors who were talking a really big game. And he just didn't know the world. He wasn't introduced to it before that. We were just doing it on our own. And after that, we increased our portfolio by $1.5 million in 18 months.
Wow.
But he just had to change his perspective. So here we thought we were on the same page. We kind of were until 2016 when I signed him up. And then he really understood my vision, which I didn't articulate very well, and I own that. Then our portfolio just went phew. And we find that with other couples, they're like, some have zero interest. And that's kind of where we firstly be like, well, let's understand why you don't have an interest. Because you should. Both partners should be interested in their finances and their wealth. And sometimes it's literally just an insecurity. You know, they're not educated in it, they don't know how to speak to it, and they don't want to sound or look dumb, so they don't say anything. Or sometimes it's dominant, like traditionally we're taught the man makes the money, he deals with the finances, he does the investing, and so women generally don't get involved. So it's a matter of educating them so they both understand where the fears are between the two of them, and then articulating what their plan is. So they articulate it, and we get them to do it separately first and then come together. Because generally, if you do it together, one will listen and be like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. That's right. But it's like, no, what do you both want? And then let's make it work together as a team for you.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
So, on the subject, because being a couple is very difficult because it's two completely different personalities coming together to coexist. And then when you have businesses together, it makes it even more challenging because you have a whole additional layer. And then when it's financial kind of side of it, so now could be so much contention. What is the difference between being inspiring and kind of a visionary in a couple versus being pushy and pushing your dream onto someone who is just gonna resent you afterwards, right? Like knowing when somebody is ready as opposed to pushing, maybe it's my dream, but maybe it's not yours, and I sell it to you and you go for it, and then you are literally existing in a prison that I've created, and you don't like what is the balance, and how do you ensure that you're not pushing someone in a direction they're not interested in going, but they maybe don't have a strong enough voice to say, hey, I want it, or I don't want it, or I don't want it like that?
That's a great question. And that comes in partly in our course. Like, so the first half of our course is all foundational. Like we start with the values and we talk about adversity and preparedness. And so they do, again, everything is done separately, all the assignments, and then they come together. And then I think it helps having us as an outsider to help them walk through and share our experiences. But one of the biggest pieces of advice we share that we learned was sometimes your spouse is not the one to teach you or tell you. So for example, when I signed my husband up, even though I knew what I wanted, there was no way I don't think I could have ever sold him on it. But when I got him into a room, which was predominantly men, because that's just the investing industry, and he was hearing their goals, it blew his mind and it made him think bigger. And so we always advise, like, hey, if you want to get your partner on board with whatever it is, find someone else in your circle or book a dinner out with them. Like make it a date night, make it fun, where it's casual, but you can have a bit of that conversation to help your partner firstly hear it from someone else's perspective. So it's not coming directly from you as like a push. It's more of a conversation, and they see like, oh, that couple's doing it. Maybe I need to open my mind to what that looks like. And then another thing we highly recommend is scheduling conversations weekly with your partner to talk about wealth and finance, but ask how questions, not why. So if your partner recommends something, you'd be like, well, how do you propose we do that? Or how does that look like if we were to play it out, as opposed to like, why do you think that? Because now they're just shut down and you're accusing them and they're defensive and they're not going to open up. But if you say like how, as in like, I don't understand, or I want to know your perspective, they're a lot more open and giving, and it's a lot more easy to navigate that relationship, to listen and want to listen to your other partner. But we highly advise booking time, so then you know that's what it's set for. Because when you go in and say you're busy working on whatever it is, and I just interrupt my husband, which I have done and we've learned, it's like, well, his head's busy doing whatever he's doing. He's not listening, he's not paying attention, and he's not prepared. But if it's booked in advance on Sunday at 10 a.m., we're talking about finances, he can be prepared. He knows it's coming, so he can if anything comes up during the week, it's not interrupting me. He just tags it there, say, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. And then we advise in that meeting, like, not like how their finances, oh, it's okay. No, like, how do you think we're doing with our trading portfolio? How do you think we're doing with our investment portfolio? This has shifted here. I was thinking of investing in this. What are your thoughts on it? Right? So it's an actual conversation and you're involving them. You're not kind of just like, here's what's happening, that's what I'm doing, and you're kind of shutting them out. You're engaging them.
Sounds really powerful. So, I mean, how long do you normally work with clients? Does it depend on like the couple, the individual, or is it like a set sort of time?
So our original program is 90 days. So we
Okay.
do it over the course of 12 weeks. And then from there, depending on which route they're looking to go, we extend it for another 90 days. Because we find, like anything, it takes time. Do it in one day, you're going to walk away all empowered and you're going to forget half of what you did and not know what to do. So we understand needing that ongoing guidance and accountability.
Yeah. What books do you recommend? Because my eyes keep directing to the one of your books. I hope you don't mind. It's from what I can see, the 10 times or the 10x rule. What books do you recommend for sort of like people, individuals starting out to sort of help them to educate, start to shift their mindset around money and wealth?
So that is a great book, the 10X Rule. And if you're familiar with Grant Cardone, he has, I don't even know how many books to be honest, but he has a lot of different books to really help shift your perspective on, he's a lot around business and real estate, but it kind of just gives you a kick in the butt to realize there's more out there and you can have it all, but it's up to you, right? And you have to take action. You can't be depending on someone else and hoping it'll work, especially if you're not using your voice to actually articulate what it is you're looking for. I'm trying to think of other books. I mean, there's so many books I've read, and I read all the time. So I advise reading all the time, but sorry, I should know off the top of my head. I don't.
One of the best books I've actually read on money, and I think Faina's read it as well, because I'm sure I would have sent her a link. We're always sharing and swapping
Changing books.
So one of the best books, most powerful, that really shift my sort of whole belief system around money is a book called Love Money, Money Loves You by Sarah McCrum. Now, I've recommended this book to over 200 traders in the past couple of years. And, you know, they've all come back and said, wow, this has really like shifted my mindset to really, in a nutshell, it helps you realize that there's so much abundance out there and we just need to allow it and sort of tap into it. Like there is,
I agree. Now
Yeah, that book was recommended at a podcast. A lady that was on our podcast recommended that book.
That's
and
right.
She teaches a course on it. And we both read it and we both were like exchanging things back and forth, going, did you read that part? What page are you on? I'm up to this page, you know, and I agree because it makes money less of a currency and more of an energetic thing that is like a living energetic thing, and you engage people all the time and you're sort of engaging money as an energetic entity as opposed to like this concept you can't quite, you know, conceptualize, I guess. And you start to think of it as an energy flow. And she said, the lady said that the lady, I forget the name of the author, but she basically went into this meditative state and was able to just free. It was like a stream of conscious, and she just wrote whatever was coming. So it was like, she said, it almost like was like a download from somewhere else. It almost like she wasn't a part of it. And something really amazing came out of it. And I agree with Louise. It's one of those really interesting books, and it makes you look at money in a whole different perspective.
I love it. I'm gonna have to look that one up. There are definitely other books out there like The Psychology of Money. That's an old book, but I think is a little bit more in that realm where it talks about, you know, don't look at money as just that direct exchange and you have to have it. It's there for you. And then another good book is I think it's called The Millionaire Next Door, and that's more perspective on understanding that what people perceive as millionaires isn't your typical millionaire. Like your millionaire can be your neighbor and you might not know it, right? If you have a flashy house and flashy cars, you might be house poor. Like you may not actually be a millionaire, but it just shows, and there's a lot of stats too to just kind of back up. Like there are a lot more millionaires out there, and they look like a normal person that you wouldn't even know has money. And that if that's the kind of millionaire you want to be, because now you're actually saving and have money for future and for generational versus the flashy ones where they're blowing their money and it generally is not there for the next generation or even possibly for them come retirement.
Yeah, I think that people confuse people like the cash flow rather than assets. And you could be a millionaire asset wise and maybe not so much in free cash, right? And so they're not looking at it as like the bigger picture of like what assets do you have and what projections do you have, and you know, maybe you're on your way, but it's not the regular what we used to seeing, you know, big mansion and 7 Mercedes outside. And I think that's, you know, what some liquidity versus like assets.
I think what you're doing again is really inspiring, because if you think, I mean, I don't know about the US, but in the UK, so many lottery winners, like they win millions and it's gone within a year because they don't have that money management. They don't have that education. We're not taught it in the schools in the UK. I don't think it's taught in the US. It should be, but it's not. Let's not go there. But that's another subject. But, you know, I think it's what you're doing is really good because you're educating people, aren't you, to build that wealth and, you know, have that freedom and that control of over their own sort of future, really.
Well, in the US, you can open a credit card at 18, but you cannot drink till 21. And so that is very bizarre because at 18 you can literally put yourself in debt and destroy your credit score, but you cannot have a beer, right? So there's something we're almost set up systemically to fail and get into this trap of debt, you know, versus your income. And when you're at 18, there's no way that your income, in some cases, but in most cases, you know, income and debt ratio are not in balance.
No.
Yeah, we're coming to the end of the show, actually. It's been absolutely lovely having you, Jessilyn. I mean, do you have any sort of words of wisdom, or do you want to tell us about sort of share, you know, your next sort of goals and dreams and desires that are coming up in the next year?
And also tell us how to find you, because we're going to include it in the description, but how do people find you? Yeah. And how do people buy your coaching for their partner who is not ready yet? So you can tell them instead of getting into the whole, you know, power struggle.
Thank you, ladies. It's been lovely being here. So absolutely, you can go to Discover Life by Design. And in there's also a free download for those who want to just kind of learn the 3 things that are stopping them from building their wealth. If you want to get your partner on board, book a discovery call with us. Let us do the chatting. Let us ask the questions and navigate that world with you so you don't feel like you're alone. We're happy to do that. We also have a podcast where we teach nuggets of how to build your wealth, and that's Life by Design.
All right.
Wisdom I'd love to share is my tag is wealth is a choice. And I say that because you have to choose it. And when you choose it, that means getting into action. It's not, I choose wealth and then put it on a shelf and wonder why you're nowhere in 5 years. You choose it, then start actively working towards it because you can have it. I promise you, I grew my own wealth from nothing. I know how it's done and I know it's doable. You just have to choose it.
Perfect. And just last question, what would you say, because a lot of people don't start because they're overwhelmed. It's like that. And it can cause imposter syndrome. What would you say the first step would be for somebody who has no experience in investing and compounding their, you know, their finances?
We always start with the why. Why do you want to be wealthy? Because everyone can say, I want to be rich, I want to be a millionaire. But just to be a millionaire, it gives no meaning. You won't carry through on that. But if you can connect to why you want to be wealthy, whether that's to be able to take care of your parents, to take care of your kids, to give back to the community, to like whatever your why is, that will keep you going for the next step.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you
They
so
say
much
the
for
stronger
sharing.
the why, the more committed you are to the process. And if your why is very local, then thus your process going to be very local. And if it's more global, then you probably, uh, tap into some other bigger, greater energy flow of money that will bring you greater success. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. And it's really inspiring. And for those who are afraid to take the first step, maybe they can reach out to you and you can, hold their hand, because a lot of people, no one wants to be the first sometimes in their family to do this. Nobody wants to look stupid. No one, and we all argue a lot towards our limitations rather than our potential. So, and if people are, I don't know, and then just stop, there's you and your husband to kind of, gently nudge him in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jessilyn. It's been very inspiring, and I know the listeners are just going to love it. And I will be listening to your podcast.
Thank you.
Same. We're
Thank
going
you
to
so
be
much.
at We Love Podcasts. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.